Okay, I think we're going to get started here. So my name is Derek Tripp, and I'm the Recreation Superintendent of Sports. First off, thank you all for being here. You all are obviously very integral to what we do here with the city and with our sports department, especially right now with youth basketball. Very exciting time. So I coach myself, and some things I just want to make sure that I reiterate to everybody that I know Matt will go over today. One, the thing I always start off with my kids and my family is I say the most important thing that we get from the season is fun, right? And making sure that the kids leave the sport loving the sport more than they entered the sport. So that's the number one job I feel like of all coaches and parents, is that these kids have a great time. The second thing is talking about sportsmanship. That's super important. So when we're out there as fans, as coaches, as parents, just make sure that we're supporting the kids. And I'm sure Matt will talk about this on several slides today about making sure that we're representing ourselves well, that we're lifting the kids up. We're not taking it too seriously to the point where we're making them nervous and not enjoying the game. Matt will talk about a few other things too. We'll have a mandated reporter piece too for our coaches to make sure that if we see anything, we're saying something, because we want to make sure we're protecting the kids when they're with us. And then, I just, again, want to thank you all for being here. Todd Steinkamp is in the back too. You've maybe kind of, heard from him or gotten emails from Todd. So just, we appreciate you guys, your attendance, and for those at home as well. We'll like I said, we'll do our best to kind of answer questions online. We'll have periods of time where we can maybe answer some questions. So thank you.
Well, so welcome and thank you, obviously. Again, we kind of did a little bit of introduction. My name is Matt Barlow. Myself, Reed, and Todd are the three main people who run the show for basketball. I work mainly with the coaches. We all split doing different age groups of the rosters. Todd does staff, Reed does officials. So you'll hear a little bit probably from all of us tonight. Obviously, we're going to do that's the staff, which I think is probably the first slide there. And then we're going to talk about some of the other things that are on here. Our philosophy, which Derek touched on a little bit, dates, our websites, mandatory reporting he mentioned, rules, practice, procedures, just some basic things. And if at any time you have a question, just raise your hand and we'll get to it. And same thing online. If you have a question, type it in the chat, and we'll or we can potentially call on you and maybe even hear you through the system as well. So again, we kind of went over this just a second ago with Derek, but it's fun. It's learning, physical and emotional and social growth while learning, the fundamental skills. We don't do playoffs. We don't do trophies. We don't do champions. We are a recreational league. We get that, even me growing up, that people like some of those things. Coaches or parents are welcome to get together and give some sort of trophies at the end of the season if they want. We're not going to supply any or name or crown any champions. There's no college scouts at our games, and we're just there trying to have fun. So as a coach, think about why you coach, how you coach, what you're going to coach, and be prepared. So if you need, tips, you can obviously go on YouTube, you can go on the internet, find tons of stuff. If you want me to send you some stuff, I'll send you some stuff. No problem. Again, sportsmanship. We just want to make sure that we're positive. Again, we've been over this, and we'll hit on it a few times, but enjoy yourself at the games. Try not to get wrapped up in officiating or other things, right? Some of the officials are learning too, and we are a recreational league, so people have got to accept what happens and use it as a learning experience, not as an excuse that's why you lost the game, right? We don't want to be riding home talking about that. Should be riding home talking about, well, if we lost the game, then maybe we need to go out and dribble in the backyard some, or take some more shots at the local park, right? Not make excuses about other things. We have a C.A.R.E initiative, so it's cheer for the players on each team, both teams, accept imperfections. So not only players, but officials, coaches, whatever. Respecting opponents, officials in the game, and encouraging your players to continue trying. So again, there's going to be some adversity that teams are going to have to overcome. A lot of times there's going to be a team that's undefeated and everything in between, and maybe a team that doesn't win a game. That's just the way it works sometimes. There's no reason to not play, right? So important dates. Obviously, we're here for the meeting. Practices begin next week. Todd will be communicating with coaches. We'll be giving coaches their rosters tonight if they're here. We'll be emailing them their rosters if they're not here by tomorrow. And they should be reaching out to you within the next, I would hope, 24 to 48 hours, but no later than Sunday, hopefully, with what your practice time is going to be for at least the first week and a half, because we have Thanksgiving and we only have Mondays and Tuesday practice times on that week. So some coaches may practice, some coaches may not that week. And then we're going to set it up hopefully through the end of December, which is really the 17th, I think, is our last game, which is up there. First week of games, December 3rd. The game schedules will be up at least for the first 3 weekends of games. Well, it depends. We'll talk about the game schedules. It's going to be interesting this year. We're going to try something different, but most of the game schedules, at least the first game, will be up by Thanksgiving weekend or so. No practices for 3 weeks because APS and Cherry Creek have 2 different school breaks, so it makes it that we have to be out for 3 weeks because we use the schools for games and practices. And then you see practices resume, games resume. That, I guess, technically second Saturday in, or maybe it's even the third Saturday technically in January. And then we play 6 more games after the break, which takes us almost to the end of February. If we do have a snow out or something crazy, we have one built-in makeup date as well. So just to talk a little bit about the schedules, because I don't think it's going to be on any of the slides. In some of the age groups where we have 8, 10, or 12 teams, we're going to play a 3-game schedule in December that's then going to determine hopefully 2 brackets or 2 divisions for January on, so that we're having as close to like skilled teams together as possible. There's always going to be, it's never going to be perfect, but so that we don't, if we've got 12 teams, you probably don't want the number 1 ranked team playing the 12th place team more than once. But again, so that may lead us to having a 1-game schedule on the 3rd, and then winners play winners and losers play losers on the 10th, and then the same thing again on the 17th, to give us a picture for what we'll put out as a full schedule in January, which will be 6 more games. There may be divisions with 6 teams or less that just have a full schedule put out at the beginning. Is that correct? Yeah. So if we have 6 teams, there's not really a whole lot of sense, because we can't do two divisions of 3 or a division of 4 and a division of 2, obviously, right? Okay. So this is for coaches. You'll see at the key there is the bottom part. Supply chain issues, blah, 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 about uniforms. We don't have them here tonight like we wouldn't like to, but they'll be in the next week or so. So to pick up uniforms, we'll have staff available at Central Rec Center on Tuesday and Wednesday nights from 6:30 to 8:30. So that's next week, the Tuesday night before Thanksgiving, and the Tuesdays and Wednesday the week after, which is all before your games. Or you can make an appointment with Todd, and we can arrange to have you pick them up somewhere else, or maybe have them brought to a practice, or whatever else we can work out. And I'm, Todd and me and Rita are happy to help with that as well. So if we're around and we can meet you somewhere, we will. Coaches can get a parent to come pick them up, whatever works. And we have to have those things from the coach in order for them to pick up the uniforms. I have probably about 80 or 90%, but I need the coach's agreement, the concussion certificate. So each coach is required by state law, head coach is required by state law to do a concussion certification every 12 months. And of course, they have to pass a background check. Yes. Sure. So any coaches that are here, if it might even be helpful that you've seen your team to have an idea about sizes of jerseys before you come to pick up your jerseys, but we'll have them pre-packaged in groups of 10 usually, because most rosters are going to have 8, 9, or 10 players. But you can exchange, right? So if we have 3 smalls, 4 mediums, and 2 larges, and you need to swap whatever, you just need to tell us and we'll swap it. And we obviously don't want to duplicate numbers for obvious reasons. So, and yeah, I mean, come early if you can. You mean like at 6:30 versus 8:30? Oh, right. Yeah, we don't want to do the switching on December 3rd. We want to do it a week before. So again, the coach requirements is up there. Again, it's the 3 things that I just mentioned before, plus the NAES training, which is National Alliance for Youth Sports. So again, National Alliance for Youth Sports is kind of what we use for our best practices. Things like, I don't believe in 8U will actually even post standings. 10U will post standings, and older will post standings online. And again, at 8U, you know whether you won all the games or not. So celebrate it however you want. But NAES is our best practices as far as standings, trophies, etc. And the coaches do get a 50% credit at the end of the season for their registration, assuming they do all of those things and finish the season in good standing. So another thing here is the code of conduct, which, did we give those out tonight? Is Todd still in here? No? Okay, so great. And I'll be emailing those out as well. So this is a great thing for the coach to give to your team mom or dad and say, hey, I need your help. Can you please get all the signatures of, the parents of each player? And, you'll get to take your time and read through what the disciplinary issues can be and what the suspensions related to those are. We don't want to have to go to any of those, but that's why we do it. So if you have an issue at a game, you'll learn. So hopefully you've been to our youth sports website. If you haven't, you should, and go on the basketball website as well. The rules are posted there. Some forms are posted there. The stuff about the picture day is posted there, which I skipped over in the dates, but it was January 21st. We'll give you more information for that when it gets closer. The directions to game and practice gyms is on there as well, because some of the gyms, a lot of the gyms at a school are around the back, right? So you got to find the right door. So it takes a little bit of work sometimes, but it's described in that document that's online, and I'll make sure that it's up there as well. Inclement weather information. I mean, we'll pretty much reach out to you if a school, if schools are closed, we're not practicing or playing, right? Because we can't get into schools. But we'll reach out to you, obviously. But you can call this number. You can sign up for the text and email alerts. The schedules are on that team sideline website. So again, we'll send that out, and it's on the basketball website at the bottom. But that's where the game schedules will be, and there'll also be information posted there if we're canceled as well. Mandatory reporting. So this is something that we've been trained on recently, and we had to make sure that we include it in this presentation. So coaches are considered mandatory reporters, meaning if they see what they think is neglect or abuse to a child or adult, they need to report it. There are phone numbers to call on there. If you don't remember the phone number or can't look it up, you can reach out to us. We can call and make a report if you would prefer us to do it for you. But obviously, this is just about keeping kids and everyone safe. So just want to make sure everyone's aware of this. And we want to, again, keep everyone safe. All right, I'm going to turn it over to Reed to go over rules since he's in charge of our officials. And then I will step back in maybe in a little bit, or maybe Todd will come on down.
Cool. Yeah, so I'm Reed Davis, as aforementioned there, one of the specialists working with things. My focus will be the officials and the game schedules. The game schedules, once those are kind of done, not as much to do. The officials is an ongoing process, making sure we got them there, helping get them trained. We do a preseason training, and then, of course, monitoring them, helping them grow, giving them feedback based on what we see so that they're doing the right things that we want them to do, and also helping you coaches understand, and even parents as well, what our rules are about, how we're operating those. Kind of like it says in there, keep in mind the intent and the spirit of our rules. Some of the things we do are kind of goofy with the younger kids. Can't remember right offhand which age group. Younger kids, we let them shoot from the 12-foot line. Well, there's not a 12-foot line, and there's, the free throw line is from 15 feet. But we let them basically stand in front of the regulation line because it's a little closer, a little easier for them to shoot. And we don't call a violation on them if they land in front of that line. As long as they don't run in to get a rebound, which would be an unfair advantage. That's the spirit of the rule of the basketball. But, we're focusing on just letting them get work on their mechanics, get the shot off, and we're not so worried about the little things like that. So that's an example of a rule, that we look at the spirit of the rule versus the letter of it. And to that regard, same with those little guys. We may not call all little shuffles of the feet. Maybe not all season, probably definitely not in the beginning for like the younger age groups, the 8s, maybe even the 10s for a little bit. Again, if we did that all the time, it'd be not a very pretty basketball game. Eventually, we try to crack down on that. The referees will check in with the coaches as we go along each season and say, hey, how tight are we calling things today? Or maybe we'll send out a memo that says we're going to start calling, these certain things. We've been better lately, and we'll try to maybe share those memos with all folks so we can, copy you guys so you kind of know. But maybe you didn't see, or maybe Grandpa's visiting, to watch the game that day, and he sees, the kids shuffling their feet, and he's yelling, travel, that's a travel, their other team is traveling. Well, no, because that's not by our rules. And if you go back to our sportsmanship slide, the first thing on there was no yelling. Who likes to be yelled at? Well, a couple sickos, I like it. But most people don't like to be yelled at, right? They don't like to be yelled at. My referees definitely don't like to be yelled at. The kids don't like to be yelled at, either by the coaches, by the fans, by their own parents. I've been a referee, I've been a coach, I've been an administrator, I'm a parent. That's the most recent thing I've done, is being a parent, spectator, non-coach. Because I coached my kids for about 10 years, but they're both in high school now. And that was that was an eye-opener. Okay? My kids that I used to coach said, you always yell at us about what we're doing wrong. I'm like, no, I don't. I'm just yelling what you should do. I'm not saying you're doing it wrong. I'm trying to help you. But they interpret it as, you're yelling at us, right? So think about that, coaches, parents, when you're yelling for what your kids to do, right? Just let them play. Just go and watch. The second part of that sportsmanship was watch and enjoy the game. If you're like me and you watch the Broncos, sometimes I watch the Broncos and I'm just sitting there. I got my beverage and my food of choice, and I'm watching the game. It's kind of cool. Sometimes I'm not really watching the game. I'm watching them, and they fumble the ball. I'm like, come on, what are you doing? That's terrible. That kind of ring a bell, maybe? You've done that either with the Broncos or maybe with your team and your child, coaches and parents, right? Or again, going back to that, you're just trying to help them. What's a skill of a basketball? Rebounding. So you're like, hey, we need to rebound. We need to rebound. We need to rebound. But then they're not rebounding. So then you're like, we need to rebound. The difference of where that comes from, coming from a positive place, from a coaching place, to we're yelling at our kids. So keep that in mind when you're there watching the game with your referees, with your kids and everything else. Enjoy the game. And then cheer. Definitely cheer. There's lots of cool stuff that happens in a game. Basketball is probably one of the coolest, where there's more action actually happening, more so than soccer. My daughter plays soccer. My son plays baseball. So sometimes it's a little slow. But basketball, you got lots of opportunities to cheer and everything else. So enjoy those moments. Let the roar come up, and enjoy it. And they'll usually appreciate that kind of feedback on the positive stuff. So our rules, let's see. I guess I'm in control. Again, some of our rules that we do, we focus on equal playing time for the kids. We want everybody to get an opportunity there. We have a limited amount of adults that we allow, coaches on the sideline there. Just help keep it from getting too crazy. We allow one coach to stand up and coach, during the game, as long as they can do that and stay where they need to be and are behaving themselves. As with all of our rules and expectations within the gym, we have staff that'll be there and the referees as well that will help remind everybody what's supposed to be going on. And if it's not going on, we will have measures to take there. But we're going to have a good time. Everybody's going to come out. And again, if there's questions, you can always ask us. will also friendly remind you. And again, our staffs and our referees have the ability to address things at any point. That going from our gym staff, anybody that's wearing the Aurora logo shirt, and all our staff should be doing that, or anybody that's wearing the stripes, our folks of authority there. And then Matt, Todd, and myself will be bouncing around each weekend as well. You'll see us out there making sure everything's on track.
Go back 1 second, Reed. Go back. So two things on this slide. Equal playing time in recreation league. So it should have maybe an asterisk by it. Equal playing time still has to be earned. That means you have to be at practice and you have to be giving your best. If you're a distraction, if you are not communicating with your coach and not showing up to practice, they do not owe you equal playing time. It's not a game-only league. It's one practice a week, one game a week. Yes, things are going to come up. Yes, kids are going to be sick. That's fine. Communicate with your coach. If you're communicating with your coach, I think it's fine. The coach can still play equal playing time. But again, those are some stipulations there. And I don't think you read the bottom line there, which is important. If a parent or coach is ejected, the associated player or players will also be asked to leave. So we're not trying to punish your child, but we are trying to make sure that everyone behaves. And if you're not going to behave, obviously, if you have to leave the gym, your child is going to be leaving with you, and you're going to be going home, and you're going to be likely suspended for the next game, which also could affect your child.
All right. Again, there's different stipulations for the different ages with balls. The 8U will be playing on 8-foot baskets. We will have, those at their game site, and they should be at each practice site if we're doing our job, and you guys are working with us to make sure that they can practice on their 8-foot hoops there, and they're ready to play on the games. The games will be 2 20-minute running halves. It's a continuous thing. We don't do any overtime. If a game ends in a tie, it ends in a tie because we're a recreation program. There's the thing about the free throw line and the violations there. Full court press is not allowed in 10U and below. So again, kids are going to have to get back on defense. That allows them to learn to play defense. It allows the offense to bring the ball across the court and get a chance to do some offense. Those are, again, some of the spirit of the rule type of things that we have in place. You can read through that. That one's always a little bit tricky. We encourage coaches and officials, and if my officials aren't doing this, you give them the business or let me know, to have a pregame meeting. Again, talk about how we're going to call it that day, clarify any of these kind of rules that are goofy that maybe they called the last game that you didn't think was the right way, or you didn't, they called it, and just verify that that's the way that they're going to be calling it for that game. It's a great opportunity right there to get clarification.
Reed, can I say one thing?
One.
So with the 8U teams, just so you know, there are only certain locations that we have 8-foot baskets. So I'm sort of forewarning you, you're probably going to travel if you're not in sort of centrally located in Aurora for those 8U practices. The games obviously could be at any of our gyms. Well, again, 8U is going to be at Central or Horizon, and that's mostly where Horizon and maybe 1 or 2 other locations are where the 8U practices are going to be, because you need 8-foot baskets if you're going to play an 8-foot game. So there will be a little bit more travel for practice, but it's 1 night a week, so try to make it work. Yeah.
All right. Good point, Matt. Thank you. So yes, I mean, if any of you are aware, anybody do any other sports out there? Cool. How's your referee situation been? Yeah, sometimes you don't have games and you're not having them. Like I said, my kids are in high school. My son's a varsity baseball player. They have times where they have 1 umpire for a full-size varsity baseball game. That's a tough draw for the umpire, and it's really not fair to the kids. He can't see a steal at second base or a pickoff or play down the line. So refereeing is a challenge right now, and officiating in period. So take care of those guys. Be nice. Matt touched on it a little bit. Some of them are brand new young kids. Some of your kids, maybe your older child, or kids that have played in our program. And then we have some adults as well. And be nice to them. Actually, be really nice to them because they're coming back. They're helping us out. They do a good job. So we want to take care of those officials. If you know anybody that's interested, send them our way, send them my way. We'll get them going. Like I said, it helps. So those of you that have had it, you may have had to officiate your game and everything else, and it makes you really appreciate not having to do that, not even just from the standpoint of dealing with officials deal with, but you want to just sit back. You were, ready to roll up, sit in your chair and watch the game and watch your kid, and then they pulled you out of the stands and said, "We need somebody to call the game today. Good luck. Have fun." So, let's take care of those guys. Let's work to, get them in here. We appreciate it. And like I said, there's no reason to yell at anybody for anything in our program. If something's not right, definitely let us know. Come down, talk to the staff, talk directly more to the staff. If it's an officiating thing that you see, they can address the officials. They have that relationship. Everything else, they'll probably be a little calmer than you will be. The other thing is, bring it to our attention. Oh, so yeah. Okay, you're a parent. There's 10 kids out there. There's 2 officials. So and they've got certain areas they're watching, so they're not watching all the kids all the time. So let's say they're watching about 2.5 kids, each. So that leaves half the kids that they're not watching, in the course of a game, that they can't see what's going on. So something might happen to your child that you're probably watching and focusing on, or your team as a coach, and as you should be focusing a lot on what your team is doing, right? So there's going to be stuff that happens that they don't see. And it's not that they don't care. It's not that they don't try. And that's just the way it goes, right? But you'll see it because you're looking for it. But they're looking for something else. They're watching, these other couple kids. You're focusing on others. So it's going to happen. Understand that. Accept it. But if it's something kind of egregious, and, if they're pushing your kid, then let somebody know. Talk to your coach. Come down and talk to our staff. They'll look at something like that. As your coaches and as an official, if I'm on the sideline after a whistle and the coach comes up and says, "Hey, can you watch number 12? He's pushing my kids, down the lane." Okay, coach, I'll keep an eye out for that. Way more receptive to that than, "They're pushing down there. They're pushing." For one, I don't know what you're talking about exactly. I didn't see it, but you're excited and everything else. And what's in my natural defense as a human being? Officials are human beings. I know sometimes we forget that. Is to be defensive, right? And or to even be a little bit like, "You're gonna yell at me? Well, I'm not gonna give you a call." I mean, let's be honest. We're human. I mean, if you don't believe that officials kind of get that bristle, it's true. They do. I'll admit it as an official. Now I might get kicked out of the fraternity, but but it's gonna happen. There's gonna be calls that don't happen. As coaches, you have the right to respectfully address that in a manner. As parents, you kind of got to suck it up unless it's something really bad. Again, the only thing you can really get a little excited about is if there's some physical thing that happens to your kid and they kind of get hurt. Then I understand as a parent, like I said, that's the newest phase of my life. I get more excited when I'm in a game and something happens to my kid than the rest of it a little bit. But I still got to behave. I still got to, either suck it up or let somebody know, "Hey, I don't think that's right."
All right, I'll step back in for a minute. Before we go on to uniforms, which is not complicated at all, I just wanted to talk about roster formation because that's not really on any of the slides either. So we work really hard to try to get you all the preferences that you ask, including close to your home, which again, with 8U, that may not be the case for practices. But it's not always 100% possible. So if you've got rosters of 10, max 10, and you've got 21 people from Harmony Ridge, way up northeast, one of those people is not going to get on the roster with all the people from Harmony Ridge. They're going to have to get on the roster with the people from Marachek or somewhere a little bit more into Aurora. That's just the way it works. Again, we try our best. We try our best to make all the friend connections, coach connections, and everything that we can, but it's not always 100% possible, okay? As far as the co-ed leagues, girls, boys, etc., we can't promise that there's going to be more than one girl on a team. We can't promise that there's going to be a team that might have 7 out of 10 be girls, or we don't even look at it, to be honest, because it doesn't matter. It only matters if you make it matter, right? We're here for fun. There's going to be all different types of abilities, whether it's male or female, doesn't matter. So for uniforms, we provide a jersey. It's just a reversible, blue and white usually. And we don't really want them altered. We just want everybody to be equal, right? So we don't want to have one team going and putting names on the back and one team going in, whatever. There will be some teams maybe that do go out and get matching shorts or something like that. We don't have any control over that. We don't care what shorts you wear, but court shoes, whatever. And then we don't want shoes with lights. We don't want ribbons, bows, jewelry, headwear, hair beads. I know hair beads is a tough one sometimes, but you can imagine whipping it around under the basket that it could, injure someone. So want to try to stay away from that. Definitely want to try to stay away from getting your ears pierced over the next 3 months so that you can't take them out, whatever. Okay. Next slide for me. Go again. All right. Jewelry is prohibited. So no piercings, no watches, no necklaces, unless it's a medical bracelet or I guess a religious item. Certainly a hijab or a head dress or something like that is fine. If someone needs to wear something like that, we don't have any issue. Go ahead, next one. So we do need parent help at the scorers table, and the coaches need to help us with that as well. So one parent from each team, doesn't matter if it's the same one every game or a different one every game. Again, good to get a team mom or somebody to get a little chart along with the scoreboard duty. You can have the snack list because everyone knows how important the snack is after the game. So again, coaches utilize the parents for things like that. But yeah, so we have one person just doing the scoreboard, and we'll have a staff member there to teach you how to do it, and one person doing the score sheet. They're all both very easy to learn. If you know how to do it already, volunteer, please. Coaches are turning in little lineup cards so that we can write those on the score sheets before the game starts. There's gym supervisors, there's hall monitors. The gym supervisors, again, will make decisions, especially if we're not there. If they need to make a decision about something, they will make it or contact us and we will make it for them and communicate it to you guys. No food or drink in the gym. You'll probably see that again on another slide, but water only, please. I know it's hard at 8:30 game to not want to bring your Starbucks in, but we're going to stop you at the door and make you finish it in the lobby. So finish it in the car or finish it in the lobby, your choice. We just can't have Gator. And if you bring in the snacks, the hall monitor can keep it out in the hall for you. Because again, we don't want to have Gatorade spills. We don't want to have coffee spills and other things in the gym. Again, we're using the schools. The schools have rules, which you'll see in a minute. And we have to follow those rules or we won't be able to use the schools. Oh yeah. Help your coach by being on time for drop off and pick up at games and practices. Again, if you're getting, into technicalities here, if you're 30, 45, an hour late, you can call the police. It's neglect. We don't want to have that happen. 10U and younger parents should expect to stay at practices and games to help supervise their children. If you have to leave for something, then you obviously need to communicate that with your coach. And hopefully you're not doing that right at the beginning. Hopefully your coach will build a rapport, know those kids, and your coach needs to tell you if that's not okay. Sit and say, and it's a difficult conversation, and say, you know what, I really actually need you to stay to watch his behavior or whatever the problem is. Did I go through everything on the last slide? You switched it before I turned around. Coaches, don't cancel practice without notifying us. We have to send staff members out to every school every night for your practice. So we don't want to send someone out and then have a no-show when we're paying a staff member to be out there. We already talked about the food and water, hall monitors, same thing. So we'll have a gym supervisor who's usually an adult. The hall monitor might be a high school kid or it might be an adult as well. And they're going to ask you things like, please don't bring your coffee in the gym. Try not to give them a hard time. Just don't bring it in the gym. Switch. So this is mainly for coaches, but also for parents. If your practice is either 5:45, right, Todd? 5:45 or 7:15 usually, for the most part. There might be some exceptions. Don't arrive at 5:15 for 5:45. School is not going to let you in. Arrive at 5:40, maybe at the earliest. The school is not going to let you in prior to the practice time. When your practice time starts is when you're supposed to be allowed in. And hopefully our hall monitors also will not be letting you in much before your, much more than 5 minutes before your start of your practice time. Usually we build in like a 15-minute cushion, so our permit maybe starts at 5:30, and that's why we have the practice starting at 5:45, so the person can get into school, make sure everything's set for the practice or the games, and so on. Don't practice beyond your scheduled time for the same reason. Usually there's a practice maybe coming after yours, but also if it's 7:45 to 9 o'clock, at 9 o'clock, our employees need to leave as well and wrap things up in the gym, and that's when our permits will end. You don't need to call the schools about anything. You can call us. Our work numbers, well, I don't know if they're online or not, but you can email us, certainly. You got my email from if you're here tonight. And my email is in my signature of that as well. I mean, my phone number is in the signature of the email. Don't prop the doors open. That's for safety. There'll again be a staff member there at the schools to let you in, just like we kind of were here tonight, doing our best. They just don't want the doors propped open for safety reasons, and that again is a big thing for losing permits at schools. A lot of people like to prop the gym doors open just because it's maybe quicker to get in that way. We cannot do that. If you move it, I mean, we don't want to really move equipment, but if we have to move something for a safety reason, just move it back where it was when you're done. If there's a volleyball stanchion or a table or something that's in the way. If you're bringing siblings to your practice, they of course cannot wander the halls of the school. Again, the hall monitors or the gym supervisors will be watching for that as well. But basically we have access to the bathrooms nearest to the gym, the lobby area, and the gym itself. And again, going down schools, most of the schools have cameras. Going down the hallways is going to get us kicked out of the schools. We don't want to be bouncing the balls. We talked about food and beverages and tape on the floor. That's mainly for coaches, mainly for practices, but we cannot mark the floor with anything. Again, we're using the school gyms, so you can bring your own cones, you can bring other things like that, but no tape on the floor. All right, Todd, you want to speak for a second? Here, use the mic because.
One thing for the coaches that are here, I know a lot of you, I have already confirmed the practices for the first couple weeks. That is next week and then the week of Thanksgiving. For Thanksgiving, keep in mind, we're only practicing on Monday and Tuesday. So for those coaches that are here, if you want to confirm the first couple weeks of practices, just hang out up here. I'll hang out up here in the front and you can stop by and we can confirm those first couple weeks. If not, for those that need to go or for those of online, we'll email that out. I will email that out tomorrow for the first 2 weeks of practices. But for the coaches that are here, if you want to hang out afterwards, you can. I want to say thank you. I know we've said it a couple times, but thank you especially to the coaches that are here, that showed up, the coaches that are online, all of our coaches that help out. Those of you that are parents that help out as volunteers, thank you very much. Appreciate everyone coming tonight and dropping in online too. Thank you.
So Matt mentioned it for contacting us. This is our office tonight. Tomorrow my office might be somewhere else. We don't have physical offices. We carry our computers around wherever we're at, and that's where our phone is connected to. But I carry my phone with me like most of you do, and that's where my email is connected to. And sometimes I shut it off even and sleep or do other things. But so the best way to get a hold of us, the summary of that whole thing is email us. It's a really good way. We'll have it wherever we're at, and sickly, we will look at it quite often as well. A lot better than a phone call. You can call and leave a voicemail because that's probably what you'll get a lot of times, unless we happen to be sitting at our computer, you know, which we do during work hours. But for us, work hours are weird, and even so.
And work hours are everywhere. So
And,
we're at gyms, we're at fields, we're at courts.
So we don't have our computer with us to answer that call and take it and respond immediately, but we can check an email if it pops up. But again, you can call and leave a voicemail if it's something where you kind of want to leave a little story and some details, and then we can get back to you as soon as we realize that we can and have that opportunity to do that. But just as Matt had mentioned, in contacting us, that's why we don't do our phone numbers as much, but definitely email is the best way.
On the table at the front are some extra copies of our rules if you want to take a paper copy. Otherwise, again, they're online. Encourage everybody to go through and look at them. I think the coaches got copies, but parents are welcome to take the leftover copies. Do we have any questions? Do we have anything that was unclear? I don't see any hands. Did we have any chat online questions? Stella, you are unmuted if you would like to talk. No, maybe not. Stella, did you have your hand up? Can you unmute your own mic? There you go.
Yeah. So I didn't have a question. I was just trying to check in the beginning. I didn't know how to work Teams.
Okay, no problem.
All right. Thank you.
Well, yeah. Hold on. Let me have Reed bring the microphone just so the people online can hear you as well.
So hello.
Yeah.
I got an email that it says that my daughter doesn't qualify for the 12U because there's not enough players,
Correct.
but she can play in the boys 12U.
Correct.
So, or the 14U co-ed.
Correct.
So how do we go about getting that?
Respond to my email. That was me.
That
So,
was you?
and let me know what you prefer. So
Okay.
those, yeah, unfortunately we only had
Thank you.
20 girls in the 12U girls league. So some of those are being refunded. Some of them were young enough that they could go back to 10U. And then I offered them to play in the 12U boys league, which again, you may end up being the only girl on the team, but if you want to play, you can play. And then we have 14U co-ed as well. If there's an older 12-year-old or a more experienced 12-year-old that wants to play 14U co-ed, then you might have a chance there as well. Again, your coaches should be reaching out to you. Again, all of them should have their rosters by middle of the day tomorrow. So they should reach out to you, I would hope, by tomorrow or Friday. But let's give them through Sunday. If you don't hear from a coach by Sunday, reach out to me or Todd or Reed, and we'll ping that coach and make sure that they get in touch with you. Sometimes an email is a letter off or a phone number is a number off, and they're having trouble reaching you for that reason. So that's why I said in the email, make sure you're checking. Okay, for the 12U girls, how would the girls be placed on a roster if they play on a boys team? So for 12U girls, if they wanted to play on a boys team, you're going to be placed by the closest middle school that you put, and we'll put you on the team closest to practicing where you are. Unless you have a specific request for a boys team you want to be on. We'll have to check to see if there is space on the roster if you have a specific request.